I'm Chuck Martin. I'm proud to be the founding pastor of Memorial Baptist there in Newcastle. Sorry, Kim and I were not able to be with you today in person, so we thought we'd send this video and give you a little perspective on the founding of the church, a little bit of the history and background. I'm reminded of the scripture in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, beginning in verse 6, where Paul says that I planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but only God made it grow. So neither he who plants nor he who waters is anything, but only God who makes it grow. You know, it just reminds us that we each have a role to play in what God's doing in any place, and more importantly, what he's doing in this world. We were privileged to go by faith and be a part of a new church start there in Newcastle. But really, it didn't start with us. It started with a group there in Newcastle and started with the support of some folks like Cecil Weller. I know the Cecil Weller house there next to the church is named in his honor. Well, see, I was the roommate of Cecil's son, Eddie, when I was in seminary. And Cecil had gone on several occasions to Newcastle and had helped in a revival and really caught a vision for what the church could be and wanted the church that he was a part of to support that. And so he led Grand Avenue Baptist in Fort Smith, Arkansas to financially support me as pastor for the first 2 years that I was there in Newcastle. And so it enabled us to go and for me to serve and get the church really off the ground. When I think of what God has done and is continuing to do there in Newcastle, I think of the faithful people that have been a part of the church from the very beginning. I think of folks like Steve and Amy White. I think of folks like Dale and Dorothy Cole and Mark and Noreen Schlotterbeck and many others that continue just faithfully to serve and to love and to present Jesus to folks there in Newcastle. You know, I'm reminded that when we plant the seed, sometimes we don't get to see the end result of that. We don't get to see the fruit or the germination. And I think about people that today are active members of the church that we prayed for, that we shared Christ with, folks like Chris Lawrence and folks like Steve Stearns that are very active there in the church. And it's great to see what God has done and is doing in their life. And there are many others. But I'm just reminded that God does call each of us to be faithful where we are with what he gives us. And it's really not about us. I know many of you there will probably never meet some of the folks that were foundational in not only forming the church, but in building the church physically. I remember a group called the Alabama Carpenters for Christ that came and helped build the initial building. And I remember praying for that, and we didn't have money to pay for the actual construction. And these men volunteered their time, and many others. I believe there were 9 crews over the summer, but I'll never forget when 60 of these guys from North Alabama got off a bus and said, we're here to build this church. It was just overwhelming to see how God used the faithfulness of folks taking their time to physically build a church to be a place where people would worship and where they would learn about the Lord and where lives would be changed. And so it's amazing. It makes me feel really old, but 25 years. But God is very much at work today as he has been in the past. And I just want to challenge you with being faithful with where God has called you and the people that he places in your life today, that you would represent him and that you would pray for your neighbors and your friends, and you'd realize that in the view of eternity, 25 years is but just a moment. I'm amazed at how quickly it's gone by. But I guess when we get to heaven, we'll all see a sense or gain an appreciation for maybe the small roles we played, but certainly we'll have an awesome gratitude for the God who calls us and uses us often in spite of ourselves. Thanks for letting me join you today. God bless you.